But there may be some cases where having all the traffic going to the controller is not necessarily efficient. And this brings us to discuss what we call the control plane versus data plane. The data plane is your client traffic going through the access point and somewhere. In some cases, if the controller is a central point, then your controller is going to collect everything from the access points. Not only the configuration and status, but it's also going to collect the traffic coming from the client. So client traffic is going to go from the client to the AP, to the controller, and then the controller will forward this traffic somewhere to the network. So this works well in many environments, but in some environments, especially when you have branches over a WAN, it may not be very practical to send the client traffic over to the controller somewhere across the WAN. That's a lot of consumption, especially if what the client tries to do is to get just to the internet. You cross the WAN and then you come back into the internet. Doesn't make any sense. So there is another mode where we're going to separate the client side, the client traffic, which we call the data plane, from the control traffic to manage the access points and their RF environment, which we call the control plane. And that mode is what we call the Flex Connect mode. In that mode, you're going to decide if the data plane goes through the controller or not. The control plane will likely go to the controller because that's still your central point of configuration. But in that mode, you will allow your access point to survive the loss of connectivity to the controller. So the control plane is going to go to the controller, but the APs can survive without connectivity to that controller for a while. Now for the data plane, you decide if you want to bring it across the WAN to the controller or if you just want to have it local to the access points. And then, of course, in the same logic, there is beyond the branches, the cloud control, where the controller function is in the cloud somewhere. And here, the control traffic goes from the cloud to the access points, from the Meraki dashboard to the access points. But the data plane never goes to the cloud, except some very specific cases that we'll check together. But most of the data plane is local to your branch. It doesn't go to the cloud because it doesn't have any reason to. So the only traffic that goes to the controller, which is in this case the dashboard, is always going to be control traffic.